October 29, 2018. A brand new Boeing 737 MAX, Lion Air Flight 610, plunged into the Java Sea shortly after takeoff from Jakarta, killing all 189 people on board. Just over 4 months later, on March 10, 2019, another 737 MAX, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, crashed 6 minutes after departing Addis Ababa, killing all 157 souls. 2 planes, 2 crashes, nearly identical circumstances, 346 lives lost. The world watched in horror, demanding answers to a chilling question: how could this happen to one of the most advanced passenger jets, and what was the real, underlying reason for this catastrophic repetition? For over a century, Boeing had been a titan of American industry, synonymous with aviation innovation and safety. From the B-17 Flying Fortress to the iconic 747 Queen of the Skies, its aircraft shaped global travel and defense. However, by the early 21st century, the landscape had shifted dramatically. Intense competition from Airbus, coupled with pressure from airlines for more fuel-efficient aircraft, pushed Boeing to rapidly develop its next generation of narrow-body jets. This corporate drive for speed and market dominance would, according to subsequent investigations, introduce unprecedented risks into the design process. The 737 MAX was not an entirely new design but an upgrade of Boeing's venerable 737, an aircraft that had flown for decades. To compete with Airbus's A320neo, Boeing opted to re-engine the 737 with larger, more fuel-efficient engines. These engines, mounted further forward on the wing, altered the aircraft's aerodynamic characteristics. To counter a potential pitch-up tendency during certain maneuvers, particularly at high angles of attack, Boeing engineers developed a new automated flight control system, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 departed Jakarta. Shortly after takeoff, the pilots encountered severe flight control issues. According to Indonesia's National Transportation Safety Committee, KNKT, final report, the aircraft repeatedly pushed its nose down, despite the pilots' efforts to pull it up. Airspeed readings were erratic, and a critical angle of attack (AOA) sensor was providing erroneous data. For 13 agonizing minutes, the crew battled a system they barely understood, before the aircraft ultimately plummeted into the ocean. It was an unprecedented tragedy, but at this stage, the specific cause remained elusive to the public. Investigators quickly recovered the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder from Lion Air 610. Early analysis pointed towards the MCAS system repeatedly activating, forcing the aircraft's nose down based on a faulty AOA sensor reading. Boeing issued an operations manual bulletin, outlining procedures for runaway stabilizer trim, a general issue, but did not specifically mention MCAS. This move, as later observed by multiple aviation safety experts, downplayed the novelty and potential danger of the automated system. The pilots, and even many FAA inspectors, were largely unaware of MCAS's existence, let alone its aggressive behavior. Just 5 months later, the aviation world was struck by a terrifying sense of déjà vu. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, another Boeing 737 MAX, took off from Addis Ababa. According to the Ethiopian Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, EAIB, interim report, the flight experienced similar control difficulties almost immediately. The aircraft's nose repeatedly pitched down, mimicking the behavior of Lion Air 610. Despite the pilot's valiant struggle, the plane gained speed and ultimately crashed into the ground. The similarities were so striking that within days, authorities around the globe began grounding the 737 MAX fleet. The decision to ground an entire fleet of commercial aircraft is extraordinary, rarely seen in modern aviation history. Following the Ethiopian Airlines crash, China was the first to ground its 737 MAX planes, followed swiftly by the European Union, Australia, India, and many other nations. Initially, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, held out, expressing confidence in the aircraft. However, mounting international pressure, coupled with new satellite data confirming similarities between the two accidents, led the FAA to issue an emergency order grounding all U.S.-registered 737 MAX aircraft on March 13, 2019. Boeing's flagship plane was now universally banned from the skies. With both black boxes recovered and analyzed, the focus intensely shifted to the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS. Investigators determined that in both crashes, a single faulty angle of attack (AOA) sensor triggered the MCAS. This system, designed to gently push the nose down to prevent a stall, instead commanded repeated, aggressive nose-down movements, effectively fighting the pilots. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, would later confirm that the pilots' training had not adequately prepared them to recognize or counteract these specific MCAS malfunctions, making recovery nearly impossible. Perhaps one of the most damning revelations was that MCAS was not thoroughly disclosed to pilots or airlines. Boeing, aiming for commonality with previous 737 models to reduce training costs, minimized the changes required for pilots transitioning to the MAX. This meant that the MCAS was not detailed in flight manuals, nor was it part of simulator training programs. According to a 2020 report by the U.S. House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, this lack of transparency left pilots unprepared for a system that could, under specific failure conditions, take control of the aircraft away from them, creating a critical blind spot. The role of the Federal Aviation Administration also came under intense scrutiny. A key finding from various investigations, including a report by the Joint Authorities Technical Review, JATR, revealed that the FAA had delegated significant certification authority to Boeing itself, a practice known as organizational delegation authorization. This meant Boeing employees were performing some of the critical safety assessments. Critics, including Senator Richard Blumenthal, argued this created a conflict of interest, potentially allowing designs like MCAS to bypass independent, rigorous review. The JATR specifically criticized the FAA's oversight of MCAS as inadequate. Internal documents and whistleblower testimonies later painted a picture of a corporate culture at Boeing prioritizing production speed and cost-cutting over safety. As reported by the New York Times, engineers felt pressured to rush designs and overlook potential hazards to meet ambitious deadlines set to counter Airbus's market lead. One former Boeing engineer reportedly stated that there was immense pressure to get the MAX certified as quickly as possible. This environment, experts suggest, may have contributed to critical design choices like relying on a single AOA sensor for MCAS, rather than a redundant, fault-tolerant system. To understand the core technical issue, we must delve deeper into MCAS. The 737 MAX's larger engines altered its pitch characteristics. In certain high angle of attack scenarios, the aircraft had a tendency to pitch up. MCAS was designed to automatically push the nose down, simulating the handling of previous 737 models. Crucially, the system relied on input from only one of the aircraft's two AOA sensors. If this single sensor failed, as it did in both crashes, MCAS would receive erroneous data, interpret it as an impending stall, and repeatedly command the horizontal stabilizer to push the aircraft's nose down, overriding pilot inputs. A fundamental aspect of aviation safety is pilot training. For the 737 MAX, Boeing's initial training recommendations minimized the need for expensive simulator training, opting instead for iPad-based courses. This decision was driven by the desire to market the MAX as a seamless transition from earlier 737 variants. As a result, most pilots were not trained on MCAS or how to respond to its malfunctions. When faced with its aggressive, uncommanded nose-down commands, they were navigating uncharted territory, using standard procedures that proved ineffective against a system designed to override them. This lack of awareness was a significant factor in the crew's inability to recover the aircraft. Following the global grounding, Boeing embarked on a massive effort to fix the 737 MAX. The primary focus was on a comprehensive software update for MCAS. The updated system would now use inputs from both AOA sensors and compare them. If the sensors disagreed, MCAS would not activate. Furthermore, MCAS would only activate once per event and never command repeated nose-down inputs. Crucially, pilots would also be able to override MCAS commands using the stabilizer trim switches. These changes were aimed at making MCAS fail-safe and giving pilots ultimate control, addressing the core vulnerabilities identified in the crash investigations. Beyond software, new pilot training requirements became a cornerstone of the recertification process. Regulators mandated simulator training for all 737 MAX pilots, specifically focusing on MCAS failure scenarios and emergency procedures. The FAA, under heightened scrutiny, also committed to a more hands-on approach, reducing its reliance on delegated authority and implementing stricter oversight throughout the certification process. International regulators conducted their own independent reviews, adding layers of verification to ensure the aircraft was truly safe. This marked a significant shift in how new aircraft and their complex systems would be certified moving forward. While technical fixes and regulatory reforms are crucial, the human cost of these disasters remains profound. Families of the 346 victims continue to seek full accountability from both Boeing and the FAA. Lawsuits, congressional hearings, and public outcry kept pressure on all parties. In January 2021, Boeing agreed to pay over $2.5 billion to resolve a criminal charge related to the crashes, admitting employees misled the FAA. This settlement, while substantial, cannot bring back the lives lost, nor fully alleviate the grief of those left behind. Their stories serve as a perpetual reminder of the gravity of aviation safety. After nearly 2 years, and extensive software updates, safety audits, and pilot retraining, the Boeing 737 MAX began to return to service. The FAA lifted its grounding order in November 2020, followed by other international regulators. The return was slow, marked by caution and skepticism from the public and some airlines. Each airline implemented its own stringent protocols, often exceeding minimum requirements, to reassure passengers. While the aircraft now includes multiple layers of safeguards, the memory of the crashes serves as a stark reminder that trust in aviation is hard-earned and easily broken, demanding continuous vigilance. The Boeing 737 MAX crashes unveiled critical deficiencies in aircraft design, regulatory oversight, and corporate accountability. The investigations revealed that the real reason for the crashes wasn't just a faulty sensor or a single software glitch, but a confluence of factors: a complex, poorly disclosed automated system, inadequate pilot training, and a certification process that lacked independent scrutiny amidst intense commercial pressures. The aviation industry now faces a mandate for profound change, emphasizing robust independent oversight, complete transparency with flight crews, and an unwavering commitment to safety as the paramount priority above all else.